Corbin Carroll just had the best base running season in MLB history. I know what you're thinking, big whoop, he only did it because the bases are bigger. And you might be right. In 2022, the bases were this big, and in 2023, the bases are this big. The 41% increase in stolen bases this year spurred some power speed seasons that were previously unimaginable. Ronald Acuña Jr., seemingly about to win MVP, hit 41 home runs and stole 73 bases, making him the first member of the 40-70 club and 40-60 club and 40-50 club and 30-60 club. In a landscape of bigger bases, pitch clock, limiting pickoffs, and Yadier Molina finally being retired, he took advantage, leading the league in swiped sacks. But he was not the best runner in baseball. In fact, he wasn't even close. That honor belonged to a rookie outfielder for the Arizona Diamondbacks by the name of Corbin Carroll. There it is. According to FanGraphs, Corbin Carroll just had the greatest base running season in MLB history. This is why we're here, to talk about how this leaderboard is, pardon my language, absolute bullpucky. Hey, who the heck is Hugh Nickel? There will be 3 instances of Rickey Henderson slander in this video. This is the first. Technically speaking, Rickey Henderson is not the single-season leader in stolen bases across Major League history. In 1887, Hugh Nickel was credited with 138 steals for the Cincinnati Reds of the American Association, 8 more than the 130 achieved by Rickey in 1982. Looking at Hugh's baseball reference page, it doesn't seem real. It looks like someone sneezed during the data input. He was 5'4", worth just 4 WAR in his career, and was born in the UK. Hey Hugh, if I wanted to see the British steal things, I'd go to their museum. The context here is that stolen bases weren't even properly tracked for half his career, and even when they were, there weren't standards. Before 1898, stolen bases were often rewarded for advancing an extra base, like going first to third on a single. That's not a steal by today's rules. Perhaps more importantly, records of any caught stealings are almost completely absent until the 1920s. Basically, the base running metric thinks Hugh Nickel stole 138 bases, which isn't true, without being caught once, which also isn't true. We're throwing him and every season before 1920 in the trash, and we ain't stopping there, because MLB didn't officially standardize and track caught stealings until 1951. So, while Max Carey's 51 steals to just 2 caught in 1922 will show up in a StatHead search for most efficient 50 steal seasons, it's bullpucky. The real leader should be 2013 Jacoby Ellsbury, followed by 2023 Corbin Carroll. Oh yeah, that's who this video is supposed to be about. Corbin Carroll's fast. How fast is he? Well, during his 2022 Big League Cup of Coffee, he averaged the 2nd fastest sprint speed of any player in the StatCast era, obligatory Tim LeCastro appearance. It was during this initial call-up that StatCast recorded him going from home to third in just 10.75 seconds, which remains the fastest such time tracked. But you know what's really messed up? For copyright reasons, every piece of MLB footage you see on this channel is 5% slower than real time. You're about to watch a lot of Corbin Carroll base running highlights, so let me just say, however fast he looks on your screen right now, he's actually 5% faster. Let's face it, we're living in an era of baseflation. Yankees wunderkind Anthony Volpe just had a 2020 rookie season, and nobody cares because Nolan Jones did the same in 50 fewer games, and nobody cared about that either. The increase in steal volume alone this year was noteworthy. 2023 represented the highest rate of stolen bases per game since 1997, which was before Corbin Carroll was born, but not before I was born because I'm cooked. Yet, perhaps more noteworthy was the efficiency with which these bases were yoinked. 80.2% of steal attempts were successful, by far the highest rate in MLB history. Sure, Corbin Carroll stole 54 bases with a success rate over 90%, but how can we compare that to a time before rule changes kicked the run game into high gear? One stat we can use here is weighted stolen bases, WSB for short, which is baselined against the league average attempt rate and success rate for any given year. The average is 0, so if a player is caught stealing too many times on too few attempts, they'll end up with a negative number. Seiya Suzuki of the Cubs went just 6 for 13 on steals in 2023, giving him negative 2.9 weighted stolen bases. It's now time for the second instance of Rickey Henderson slander. From a sabermetric perspective, he does not have the most successful stolen base season. He's beaten out by both Maury Wills and Vince Coleman. In 1962, Maury Wills won MVP by stealing 104 bases at an 89% clip when the league average was 66% and the attempt rate was half of what it was when league-wide base stealing peaked in 1987. Speaking of the 80s, when even the drug of choice was called speed, Vince Coleman swiped 107 bags at an 88% success rate when the league average was 68%. Those weighted steals go right into their base running runs, explaining their positions on the single-season leaderboard. As a rule of thumb, base stealers should strive to be successful at least 75% of the time, or else they'll actually hurt their team's chances of winning. The truth is a bit more complicated, as the break-even point can change depending on the situation and run environment, but a cursory glance at a run expectancy matrix reveals that successfully stealing second with 1 out is worth plus 0.15 runs, but getting caught is worth negative 0.45, which makes it easier to see why you need to steal about 3 bases to make up for 1 caught stealing. With that focus on efficiency in mind, Corbin Carroll actually beat Ronald Acuña Jr. in weighted stolen base runs thanks to his selectivity. Acuña's 19 more steals came at the cost of 9 more caught stealings, representing an inefficient 68% success rate. Indeed, getting thrown out worsens the situation more than advancing a base improves it. Acuña played on a team that hit over 300 home runs. If he stole second and Austin Riley homered, it didn't matter that he moved up 90 feet. If he stole second and Ozzie Albies homered, all he'd done is risk it being a solo shot instead of a 2-run jack. Never mind. Nice. To snipe Carroll on the bases this year meant having to make a perfect play. Even the catchers that nabbed him only had approximately a 10% chance of doing so thanks to his speed and jump, according to Statcast. But, as you've probably guessed by now, stealing is only part of what makes Corbin Carroll such a dangerous runner. Well, we've tossed out every base running season before 1920 because of bullpucky, and then we did the same for before 1950 because of similar bullpucky. But I'm about to toss out every base running season before 2002, even though I don't really want to do it. Here's why. Stealing bases is the most obvious expression of base running value. It's a runner advancing 90 feet without any help from the batter. But FanGraphs base running has another crucial component besides weighted steals, and it's called ultimate base running. Score from third on a sac fly, that's good for ultimate base running. Get to second fast enough to stay out of the double play, that's good for ultimate base running. Get thrown out trying to stretch a single into a double, that's bad for ultimate base running and you will be punished. See, Maury Wills and Vince Coleman and Rickey Henderson are on the leaderboard purely because of their base stealing. Carroll isn't close to them in weighted steals, but he gets a major boost from his ultimate base running, UBR for short, which is only available since the 2002 season. I'm positive those historical speedsters would have him beat if we could factor in their UBR, but I have to toss them out in order to be fair. Carroll needs to be compared to runners with the same sabermetric opportunities, which constrains his competition to the last couple decades. If this is the greatest base running season of all time, it certainly comes with an asterisk, though I'd prefer an interrobang. My favorite base running stat is extra base taken percentage. How often did a runner go from first to third or second to home on a single? How often did they score from first on a double? Well, Corbin Carroll took the extra base on a hit 72% of the time in 2023, the second highest rate by any qualified speedster. The league average was 42%. It's now time for the third and final instance of Rickey Henderson slander. With all due respect to his base stealing, his career extra base taken rate was 55%, and his season best was 68% with the Yankees in 1985. Neither he, nor Vince Coleman, nor Maury Wills ever took the extra base at Corbin Carroll rates. In 2023, Corbin Carroll scored from first on a double 14 times in 15 chances, the most anyone has done so since Craig Biggio in 1996. Sometimes these are game-defining plays, like when he scored Arizona's winning run with 2 outs in the 9th after Tigers outfielder Kerry Carpenter made an oopsie on a Christian Walker double. But it's not just taking the extra base, how about taking bases in general? Carroll also finished near the top in terms of bases taken on sac flies, passed balls, and defensive indifference. Combined with the extra bases taken on hits, yeah, I made a spreadsheet for this, he advanced a league-best 68 bases in 2023. That's 17 home runs worth of free real estate. Those are the types of moves incorporated into Ultimate Base Running, where Corbin Carroll finished second behind Christian Yelich in 2023, but UBR isn't comprehensive. For example, it knows when a runner is thrown out at second trying to leg out a double, but doesn't know the difference between a stretch double and easy double in the gap. You know, this type of hit used to be called a single. Then, well, Corbin Carroll came along. Statcast recently tried to alleviate this with their own ultimate base running equivalent, which Carroll finished tied for second in as well. It looks at factors like fielder arm strength and the distance a runner has to cover, but it isn't perfect either. For example, Carroll was penalized for not scoring from second on this bloop single, which is completely defensible given the massive double play risk of taking off on contact. This is all my way of saying these metrics are kinda bullpucky, but if everyone's subject to the same bullpucky and Corbin Carroll's on top, doesn't that still make him the best? Circling back to our FanGraphs base running leaderboard, we can see 2 things. Number 1, weighted steals and UBR don't quite add up to the exact base running value. And number 2? Well, number 2 on this list is none other than rookie Mike Trout. Looking at their WSB and UBR, there's very little separating Trout and Carroll, so why does Carroll maintain a run-and-a-half lead? There's one more skill factored in here, and it's avoiding grounding out into double plays. FanGraphs has a weighted double play stat that penalizes batters for hitting into too many twin killings and awards those who avoid them. The 3 component stats, WSB, UBR, and WGDP, combine to equal a player's overall base running value, and those double plays are where rookie Corbin Carroll separated himself from rookie Mike Trout. At first glance, they shouldn't be separate at all. They grounded out into the same amount of double plays across the same number of plate appearances. But the key difference here is double play opportunities, aka how many times they came up to bat with a runner on first and less than 2 outs. Carroll dealt with 152 double play opportunities, Trout just 87. Why? Because Trout hit leadoff, so his first plate appearance in each game was never under double play duress. Also, when the lineup circled back around, he was batting behind Chris Iannetta or Bobby Wilson, while Carroll was behind Geraldo Perdomo or Ketel Marte. Whether this should be classified as a base running stat or hitting stat is totally debatable, but every base running stat has a hitting component. You can't steal if you don't get on base in the first place. What's not debatable is that Carroll's speed plays a huge role in avoiding the double play, as it makes use of his ridiculous home to first time. Carroll's base running in 2023 was elite, but it wasn't flawless. One of his double plays was a result of lack of hustle out of the box, as he ended a comeback attempt versus the Dodgers on a batted ball he thought went foul. He also made 2 outs on the base paths that were penalized by Statcast in addition to his 4 caught stealings. One was an awkward slide at second where he briefly skipped over the bag, and the other was when he was thrown out trying to score from third on a sac fly with 2 outs. A worthwhile risk thwarted by a Gunnar Henderson catch and throw that won MLB's Play of the Week. But for every mistake, he did something out of this world, like scoring from first on a single, catching the National sleeping by running all the way on a dribbler up the middle. That didn't show up in his extra base taken percentage. Or how about the time he struck out versus the Braves, only to use his wheels and end up at third base? That won't show up on the bullpucky base running metrics. So, was this the greatest base running season of all time? Maybe not, but it was the best season we can measure with a certain degree of precision. And although that measurement is probably less precise than measures of defense, and definitely less precise than measures of offense, it's still preposterous that Corbin Carroll's legs in 2023 were just as valuable as Jose Ramirez's bat and Ke'Bryan Hayes' glove. With that factoring directly into his F-WAR, it's no surprise that Carroll put together one of the best and most complete rookie seasons we've seen as of late. And that production continued into the postseason, where his Snakes put together a surprise playoff run? Slither? The past version of me you're listening to now doesn't quite know the result of said playoff run, so I'm just gonna put the most recent info available on screen now. Wow. What a shocking development. The joy of watching Corbin Carroll motor around the base paths is the joy of an elite runner without offensive hangups. Sure, Billy Hamilton and Willy Taveras types come along and are fun in their own right, but Corbin Carroll hits well enough to give himself consistent opportunities to show off those wheels. Again, just to be clear, he's 5% faster than this. Big thank you to my newest patrons. To see your name here, head on over to patreon.com/foolishbaseball. Also, thank you to Maxo for the music.